Excuse me. Hello, hello. All right. Yeah, first things first. Um, Rather than putting this at the end of the video where no one watches, I've got the Substack. The link is in description, so if you want to check out some my written ramblings there, that will be much appreciated. Yeah, plus someone who I chat to on the philosophy forums, like we're going to be doing some sort of podcasty kind of thing. Where they're going to be talking about their views and such. Yeah, we had a little brief chat. I was just checking out the old Zoom thing, make sure it works. So yeah, that should be fun. Yeah, I was only meant to check the sound and that. We ended up rambling on for like 5 or 10 minutes talking about nonsense. So yeah, it looks like there's going to be interesting chat, fun chat. Other than that, what is there to say now? Hmm. Yeah, I've just finished reading the major part of what I wanted to read with Karl Popper and Open Society and Its Enemies. It's really, really interesting. There's still a few bits I want to pick over throughout the main body of the work, but I've not read everything in there. Don't plan to doing that anytime soon. Not got the time. But it's an intriguing idea, especially with the point that he's making about population and how Plato sort of he believes Plato's sort of problem with this, and it's something that has always been on my mind in society today, like looking back at human evolution, human history, and how we've kind of moved away from the more sort of tribalistic group of say 100 people, a few hundred people at most, and then with the arrival of civilization and the polis, the city states, and now we're at the state of like a nation, a country full of cities. And it's kind of surprising in a way that we've managed to adapt. I guess that's what human beings are. The best thing. No, it's our main quality, isn't it? Adaptation, let's face it. And so it's how we've managed to progress from like a small family unit or a small like community of different families working together, operating together as a community of people in cohesion, in unity, all the way up to Jesus Christ, this. And that's somehow, we've somehow managed to be able to adapt it in that way, which is, when you really think about it, it's really surprising. And again, Popper's entire point in what he's saying with the difference between the closed society, the community, so to speak. I'm doing so to speak again. Let's stop doing that. Anyway, yeah, into the open society now, but as I was saying in the last video, it's there's always this pulling and pushing between, we either revert to being beasts again, go back into the forest, become the tribal society again, which I don't think we can ever return to without literally leveling civilization. Let's not hope for that. And but there's the opposite side of it where it's the tyranny, the extremism on either side of the political spectrum, which leads to authoritarianism and the tyranny of the state as a kind of means of supplanting the magical basis. Again, saying the magical thing, it just basically means, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it just means like it's the state of nature. It's like people assumed there was, people are born to be king and inherited that way, and that is the law. That is the way it is. That's the natural way things happen, which of course now we know is not particularly true at all. And so we've turned to reason and rationality, and this is the interesting point, I guess, because like as soon as you have this idea of reason and rationality, it seems like this very this is what a lot of religious people really strongly oppose a lot of the times. Like, you're not, this idea of being robotic and ignoring emotions and just being like, this is cold, hard logic. That is not what rationality really is, though. Because reason without emotion isn't reason, it's just nothing. So I think there's a common misconception there, but again, it does come down to the manner in which we as humans, we do tend to simplify things into, black and white, right and wrong, good and bad. And we continue to forget that there's no true pure forms. These are approximations. This is something I would like to get into in extreme depth in the future. I really do need to sit down and write about this more in terms of the whole linguistics and the antonyms and gradable antonyms and such. Well, that's for another day. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so I think there's this kind of um, illusion that there's this clear distinction between the rational mind and emotional mind. I just think it's utterly ridiculous to say that. Yeah, we can be overly rational and overly emotional, but they're never they're never apart. They have to be together for us to operate as humans. Anyway, and this entire idea, again, it's this another common misconception is, the right sphere, left sphere nonsense. It's utter bullshit. But it's a vague approximation. It kind of works in most situations. But if you learn more about neuroscience, neurobiology, you do understand quite quickly that this is just not really how things are. Although there is split brain patients who have had the corpus callosum severed, so the hemispheres, sorry, of the brain are not communicating. And you can see there's obviously the right hemisphere is much more about the big picture, the left hemisphere more about the small picture. But that's an oversimplification. There's more to it than that, far more to it than that. Anyway, but referring to the brain and the individual, which is a big part of what Popper's talking about, we see that individualism and obviously many social scientists and philosophers of politics, etc., have always talked about it's the individual right over the laws, the rule, the state, and how our rights, wobbling the table, how our rights collide with each other, or rather how our wants and needs collide with each other, forming some sort of social contract. But I think it's what's really, really important in all of this. For me, what is I'm saying most important thing? I'm not sure yet, but what really grips me is it's how we anthropomorphize certain qualities of ourselves. Well, Popper was just referring to many people refer to the state as being sick, needing treating, as in the city is sick, the city is ill. And this is kind of, we're humanizing something which has no emotions. The edifice of the whole, the state, the country, the nation, it's not really real, but it's almost like we're smuggling in this kind of spiritual kind of view, the magical view of things, saying the nation, the patriotism has supplanted the natural order of things. Like this is, we have to live in the city, so to speak. But we're viewing it as some kind of pure form, and I don't think this is the right way to look at it. And in the opposite sense to that, again, in the extreme sense, we've got the nation and the whole of humanity and acting under human rights, that kind of idea, a certain law, a structure in place, rigidly defined, which is taken as a purer kind of form, an ideal, not just a rule, but a law, a natural law. And again, that is what the whole magical side of the thing was he's talking about in the closer science. It's treating things like it's a natural law, not just an opinion. Whereas laws we have in society today, we treat them very much so like and then with human rights, like it's a natural law, but it's not. It's a human construct in a way. But it certainly reflects a certain parts of human nature and how we interact socially, because that's what we are. But anyway, and the opposite reversion to this. So at the highest level, we have like the nation, the city or the city state or the nation state, we've given it that kind of authority, but it's a disembodied authority. It has no human element to it. It's just something we follow rigidly, like the rules of a game. You don't break the rules of the game or you're not playing the game. So it's kind of set up like that. And in the extreme opposite, we have the individual too. And ever since I started reading about this idea of polis and individual and individual freedoms and such, it does bring me back to Carl Jung and like the collective unconscious, and it does really. I think the kind of freedom that we need to, the kind of freedom we associate out in the physical world amongst other people, we don't realize within ourselves. It's related a little bit back to Jungian kind of this process of individuation that he talks about. And I do believe this to be true through certain experience I've had in my life, where we're always thinking of ourselves as an individual, but I don't at all think that's correct. I think we are this collection of vying forces within us, and within ourselves we need to unify and create our own sort of laws and freedoms, but without dispelling within say the city of our mind, so to speak, as an analogy. We don't want to kick out the murderers and the most despicable parts of society within our mental sphere. We need to understand them better, incorporate them better. Again, this is going into like the Jungian shadow idea. It's like we can't deny we have these negative drives within us, or what we would look at as like certain repulsive instances. We have the capabilities to do savage, murderous things. Again, there's plenty of instances in history of this. You know, World War II, Pol Pot. It's again, everyone's like, oh, I would never do that. But again, they're the kind of people. If you really think you wouldn't break, you wouldn't do these evils, then chances are you probably would. And it's when it comes to, so I see a kind of a strange sort of disparity between this idea of the city, state, or the nation and the individual person. And I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly, but there's something within here which I think there's something being missed that would bridge the gap between like how do we cope with these large populations, give people the voice and the freedom to express themselves, whereas in today's world it seems it's like anyone can say anything, but it's this drowned out in a sea of mush and nonsense. So it seems maybe this is just the way it has to be, but it is. I think it's more about we need to communicate more readily in a face-to-face basis. Again, this is why I wanted to talk to someone from the philosophy forum on here, which I will do fairly soon. I hope we're going to sort something out, and hopefully some other members will agree to it as well. We can chat, even if I don't get to record it. That's fine. I just want to having this. Because there's a difference between you know, what would you call them, the keyboard warriors kind of thing. There's something, if you're just typing some stuff and you're not talking face to face, that there's no even just hearing a voice, even if you can't see someone's face, but you need some kind of expression of emotion to understand what's going on better. And just typing them out, I think this is causing a hell of a lot of problems. So yeah, my aim is to sort of develop a small kind of community like that which can adapt. And I think that is generally the way forward for humanity at large. It's more about downsizing, because now we can make interconnections across the entire globe like nothing. Again, the fella I'm going to be talking to is like 12 hours away. I mean, it couldn't get further away in time. So and if it can do that in many instances around the world, it's like I'm bringing and carrying around in my head like the ideas of people from around the globe in a community which is spread out. That is the boon of the internet, I would say. But it's yet to be used. You see it. I think there's a lot more interest in more depth of content online as such. But I feel as it's very passive. There's a people just like to absorb and consume. There's no real sort of feedback, or people are very hesitant to do it, and myself too. I kind of push myself to do this because it's a scary prospect. Look at people looking at me. Not that anyone seems to be bothering at the moment, but it's definitely a concern that is natural and human. But I think it's important to make the push out there sometimes. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what more I can say about that. It's a very vague idea. Mm. Yeah, but anyway, I'm kind of pretty much done with Popper, but I'm going to be going over, I think, oh yeah, just I'm going to mention Mircea Eliade again, and Jung in the sense of like the Axis Mundi, or who is it who says it? The Weltanschauung, like the felt world. Maybe that was Heidegger or Wittgenstein or someone. Just the Axis Mundi, the kind of basically the grounding of our reality. To explain this, what I mean by this Axis Mundi idea, it's, well, let's say you're religious, you believe in this God, then all of a sudden at some point in your life the rug is pulled out from under your feet. So you suddenly wake up and realize there is no God, and it's like everything you know, everything you've based your entire reality on has just dissipated. And that thing, what you cling to, that is the grounding, that is the Axis Mundi, that is how we orientate ourselves in the cosmos, in the cosmological sense. And I think this is what's happening with the city state, the nation, the polis, because people, it's this kind of, you ground yourselves in a certain identity. The individual is begging, again, to sort of referring back to what Popper was saying, like there's part of us which is absolutely begging and pleading for the tribal community, where we have our place in a tribe, and this is just the way it is. This is the natural order of things. Whereas now we opened up to this democracy and freedom, the open society, where we're left without a pure grounding in anything. There's no certainty anymore, and this is the scary thing. It's like all the responsibility is laid upon our shoulders, whereas in the past it was just like, this is the way it is, it's not my fault, this is the way I was born. And this has changed quite a lot. And yeah, Mircea Eliade did point this out again in the sacred and the profane. You do see this there. And between these items that I'm talking about, I do feel that there's some kind of disparity. Again, I need to sort of really study and analyze this a lot more, to be honest. It's between these, like the institution as a thing. It's like a creation, but it doesn't really, it's not got its own agency, whereas the individuals have, and the state doesn't have an agency, but it looks like it's got an agency. And the same with the individual, like, can even say that to an extent, like, do I have an agency or not, or am I influenced by my inner machinations, my psychology, my environment, everything? Well, of course, it's deeply entwined. The whole nature nurture thing it's a false distinction in a way. And but in terms of in terms of bettering society and human life and better communications and stuff, I think there's something in there which needs to be looked at more carefully. Because yeah, the whole institution, there's something about there's certain things that have happened in human civilization where the ball's rolling down the hill now, it's gaining momentum. There's not a lot we can do about it. But there's other situations where we can. We can't turn back the clock to the promised land, the golden age kind of thing. We can't become beasts again. And but there's certain directions we can go in. There's certain things we can look at more carefully. But I'm not quite sure what they are. Yeah, I'm not really making that clear. Again, this is again the nascent. It's an idea which is sort of still forming in my head. I'm not quite. I don't think there's not real. Well, I've not formulated a good way to express it verbally. Let me put it like that. But I can feel some kind of problem there. Yeah, and Popper refers to like the drift, like people are in a sense of drift since closed society ended. There's always like this in a very in a sense of like an infant. It's like, it's this kind of clinging back for the mother's teat to suckle on for the comfort, the care, rather than breaking away into freedom and responsibility. We've always got that kind of like, yeah, we want to revert back to that place of comfort. And this kind of infantile mentality, which again we're all aware of within ourselves and within other people within society. There's like wars going on in the world today. It's like, what the fuck's going on there? It's just so silly. But at the same time we kind of understand it. But it's figuring out where to place our responsibilities and knowing. Yes, a very interesting point in closing that Popper makes it in his book, which is somewhere near the end of it anyway, sort of referring to Socrates as well, sort of saying that people are going to, with a mythology, people are going to distrust rationality and reason. And that really does seem to be quite a potent message today. In the things I'm hearing today, just kind of like, it's baffling why some people can question some clearly that they're hard facts. It's obvious. But the problem is it's not that the disbelieving and distrust in logic, it's misuse or misunderstanding or bad reasoning which has caused these problems. And again, emotions do lead us to do this. But we've all got to be emotional, haven't we? That's what we are. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, yeah, to look more into this a bit more, in a more sort of, maybe take on a more of a historical tone. Getting a bit too political here. Yeah, I'm probably going to be going over this baby fairly soon, which is what I've been doing for Open University. This was the Reformation and print. So I'm gonna not be going through what's in the book, because I don't think I'm allowed to do that. I've asked them at Open University for a bit more detail what I can and can't say, but just sort of briefly scoping through these ideas, and it's really interesting. And yeah, in relation to today, yeah, really important, because yeah, the advent of the printing press obviously changed the whole political climate of Europe at the time, and kind of lit up the fire of the dead wood, which was around the whole Catholic Church at the time. And yeah, that gave rise to the Reformation. And maybe something similar may happen now. As they say, history repeats itself. But of the day back then, what that was the Catholic Church, whereas today, what is the equivalent of the Catholic Church in modern terms? I honestly don't know. I guess the Marxists would say capitalism, wouldn't they? So yeah, maybe that is the thing which is going to be reconstructed, and that would make sense. But again, drawing these analogies, it can be interesting and intriguing to speculate, but it's all there is speculation. But yeah, I think I might go over that, and I do need to get a better camera, I think, because this thing's very, yeah, make myself look a little bit prettier. But yeah, I'm going to have my assignment finished in a month for this last part of this module. And yeah, by then I'll probably go over a quick summary of what, because I'm going to be going back over the material I've read already. And I should be getting the next modules posted to me. Well, they're already on the way. They should be arriving in the next few days. And so, yeah, I'm going to give like kind of a brief sort of overhaul of these. And be throwing that up onto YouTube. Because, yeah, I know I was looking to see what content was on these courses and give me some idea. So I'm sure some people find it useful when they get around to that. Anyway, that is about that. I could ramble on more, but yeah, what's the point? Yeah, so I'll be back again. Again, I will leave the link in the description for the Substack. And where I'm sort of posted something about Popper already, or I'm just halfway through writing something, kind of just sort of sum up a bit more succinctly what I've just been saying now. But I've not written anything particularly substantial on Substack yet. I just put them as like journal entries. They're kind of, I just write them out within like, 20 minutes, maybe just very, very sparse, brief editing, add a few links here and there, and that's about it. But I really would like to get something more substantial done, like I say. Anyway, yeah, I'm just repeating myself now, so let's get out of here. Oh, just one more thing in the future. If I manage to find a bit of money to squeeze around somewhere, then I'll get myself a new iPad so I can do some digital drawing and be throwing then up possibly on, if I get these podcasts going as well, can use those as a visual aid for and then post them on YouTube. But we shall see. We shall see. Yeah. Bye-bye.